that I had down in my notes because it's all been a bit not rushed, but you know what I mean. It wasn't an overly exciting weekend, was it?
Well, that's a good way to start the recording, Kevin. Thanks for that. Good evening, hello, and welcome to the latest Forza Italian Football Podcast. As ever, I'm your host, Conor Clancy, and joining me is, you've already heard him, Kev Pogorzelski. Kev, hello.
Hi, Connor. How you doing?
I'm not too bad, thank you, mate. How are you keeping?
I'm all right. It's been a long weekend.
Tell me about it. A long weekend with very little sleep. Looking at you, Vito, it doesn't look like you've had too much sleep this weekend either. How are you keeping?
Look, I'm struggling a bit. Still getting used to the time difference between Europe and Australia, but yeah, just battling on. You know, it's a long trip, so just got to take it as it comes.
The listeners will want to know, are you two together right now?
No, not right now, but we were yesterday.
Oh, okay. Nice. Kev, what do I have to ask him?
Oh, ask Vito about his trip to London and if he enjoyed the complimentary gifts that we give people.
What's happened?
What happened was I landed at Heathrow Airport in London on Wednesday morning. So I got in at 6:20 and it was too early to check into my hotel. So I went for breakfast at Hawksmoor in one of the restaurants there in the central London. Anyway, there's one particular one where they do the breakfast, and I went there, ordered the English breakfast and all that. And then I see these cubes on the table, and I thought they were, pieces of candy or lollies. So I started eating one of them, and then I realized this is really hard. So then I put two and two together. I found out they were sugar cubes.
Hang on. Did you say you had one and then decided to go for two together?
No, with the first.
I got it.
One that I ate. Or tried to eat.
Do you not have sugar cubes down in Australia?
Some places don't really do it. Most of the sugar comes in packets. So thin straw-like packets, and then you just rip them from the top.
There we go. A dive into the sugar culture of Northern Europe.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, listeners. I didn't know that was going to come either, to be fair. But right, from one tedious topic of conversation to another.
It tickled me.
Straight in with the latest Serie A action for the weekend, which was the joy that was Hellas Verona 0, AC Milan 1. This was horrid, Kev.
Yeah, it was a really, really hard watch, and I saw somebody comment on Twitter that there's really no sign that this is any different to what was under Rino Gattuso. Really, it's a bit tedious. They don't seem to really have any plan for how they're moving forward, and Piontek's obviously struggling, but he looks a little isolated up front, and I just can't work out why they're going to continue going with a single striker.
Yeah, it's probably too early to judge Gianpaolo, given what he's trying to implement there, but I don't know. It's just Milan, isn't it? There's just something about them. They just can't get things right. Vito, is it going to be another one of those seasons for them?
At this stage, it looks that way. But one thing I really got a question from Gianpaolo is why is he not utilising the new signings often enough? So far, he's been starting these 3 rounds with the old guard trying to play his football, which I find rather odd. Eventually, he's got to start integrating the likes of Benacer, Krunic, and Ante Rebic in the team. Then they also have the Portuguese youngster, Rafael Leao, and you've got to wonder when he's going to play too. So, yeah, it just makes me wonder, why is he going to go with this attacking philosophy and then try the old guard who look out of place with his system and they're not really adding much to the game? At Empoli and Sampdoria, they were good at intricate passes and they would move the ball rather quickly, at least when they're playing at their best. Milan in this game were playing at a rather slow tempo, especially in the first half. And although there were a bit of improvement in the second, could still see that The effectiveness of the passes wasn't really there. They weren't that very inventive, and even the passing patterns, they weren't as intriguing or exciting as they can be.
And in a Gianpaolo team, right, this is the type of football that should stretch opponents when they've got 11 men on the pitch. Verona had 10 for 70 minutes, Kev, and Milan only scored from a penalty.
Yeah, I don't know if sometimes that makes your job a little bit harder. I thought the red card was harsh on Stepinski, because there was, it was Musacchio, wasn't it? But anyway, the Milan defender sort of slightly ducked. His foot was high, but he kind of got to the ball as well before his foot sort of struck his head. But yeah, I think sometimes when then the plan was probably to try and contain Milan anyway, that they're just going to dig in deeper and make it a bit of a war of attrition.
It's one of those, I think it's by the letter of the law, it qualified as serious foul play, so it was a straight red card. But yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? It's hard to see that and think it's an actual red card offence. But
when we're talking about laws, the whole VAR was farcical in this game as well. There must have been 10 minutes held up for the penalty decision and then the Calabria red card.
We're going to talk about VAR.
They gave 3 minutes injury time. Yeah, I know Dov was there for us, and he must be missing his last train tonight, because it felt like it just went on for ages.
I actually was with someone who I think we've had on the podcast. I've spoken to him. Alessio De Giuseppe is a journalist from Bologna, and he was sitting beside me in the press box today in Ferrara, and we were talking about VAR this season. It is a little bit of a mess. It's taken a bit of a step back because of these new rules, and the new definitions of what a handball is and things like that are making every decision take twice as long. So we had one in the first half that there was a minimum of 5 minutes stoppage. There was 7 minutes added on the first half. But Serie A games are taking a lot longer than the usual time at the beginning of the season. But hopefully it's just a case of them ironing that out in the first couple of weeks, months of the season, and then they'll get back to normal. But Vito, I know it was only a penalty, but Christoph Piontek did score. He's going to take some sort of boost from that, surely.
Yeah, I hope he does, because it seems that in pre-season and in the games in Serie A so far, he hasn't been getting the best service, and even some of his touches haven't been that fantastic. Mind you, I think he's had a bit of bad luck as well. We'll see. It's a penalty, so probably one of the, if you can, one of the easier ways to score a goal. But once he scores in open play, I think that would be the real boost. And I think he was very unlucky not to get a goal stand, because when Silvestri tried to get the ball, I don't think he held it long enough for my liking. So Piontek could have had a double, but it wasn't to be.
That's kind of the story of his last couple of weeks, I suppose. Does anyone want to say anything else about this? Because I don't.
Well, from Verona's perspective, Donnarumma did get forced into a save early on, and even when they went down to 10 men, Verona, Valerio Verre, who's on loan from Sampdoria, he actually had 2 very good chances to score. One of them, he made an exquisite first touch after a long ball, and he needed to get the volley right. Otherwise, it would have been an incredible goal. But again, that's where you got to take your chances, especially these provincial sides.
Yeah, that's true. The Milan derbies next week. Inter are just gonna wipe their hands with Milan at this rate. But let's go to Inter, because they are top of Serie A. Kev, did you hear me? Inter are top of Serie A.
I know, my prediction's going to come true.
We might be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves after just 3 games.
We have a title race.
Top 4 looks fun, doesn't it? Inter, Bologna, Juve, Torino. Torino, who have played 66.666 recurring % of the games of Juve, only a point behind them. Serie A is amazing this season. But no, on a serious note, Inter look okay. It wasn't their best performance the other evening, but they got the job done against Udinese, who themselves had 10 men for a large part of the game for reasons we will come on to. But yeah, they got the job done, and Kev, it was Stefano Sensi again.
Yeah, I tell you what, I feel as though I was blind to Stefano Sensi last year. because he didn't really come on my radar until he signed for Inter this summer. And actually, I don't think he featured a lot in when our Reuters did our players of the season or our teams of the year. It wasn't a name that I came across, and he's looked phenomenal for them. I've been really, really impressed with just his energy, the amount of, the willingness to get on the ball. He can sometimes be a bit shot happy. I mean, I covered the first game Inter had this season, and it was like a shoot on sight policy he had. But if he's going to score goals like he scored Saturday evening, because the determination to get in front of the defenders and put that header in was wonderful.
Yeah, well, he seems to have added a lot to his game, because this year in 3 Serie A games he has 2 goals and 2 assists. Last season in 28 he got 2 goals and 4 assists. He's obviously playing a slightly different role, obviously with a lot better quality of players around them as well. And you don't know, if Sassuolo had kept going as they had at the start of last season, maybe we would have noticed them a little bit more. But Sassuolo were very, very poor after about November last year. And in truth, they could have gotten relegated and nobody really would have noticed. They were that bad by the end of the season. But Vito, you're a fan of Sensi as well. And it was quite unusual to see him score a header from a Diego Godin cross. It's the sort of thing you would expect to see the other way around.
Yeah, well, it's rather surprising because Godin, he's more or less a stopper. He's not a ball-playing defender, but he bent a really nice cross. And Sensi, he was probably the smallest player on the pitch. So for him, out of all people, to get the header, that was, rather incredible, to be honest.
Genuinely impressive technique on that as well, because the ball's coming from behind him at a really difficult height, and he manages to loop it up in off the cross. It was beautiful header. I'm really liking him. I think he's my favourite player that I've watched so far this season. And I'm looking forward to next weekend because I'm going up to Milan for that derby, and it's just going to be nice to watch him. He could probably tear me down to pieces alone. But Kev, I don't know. Inter going into the derby next week. But before we... No. We have to talk about someone. The genius, the match winner, the creative spark that is Antonio Candreva. He won into that game. He got Rodrigo de Paul sent off in the most genius act you will see in football all season. And Conte trusts him. It's nice.
Who do you want to answer? I don't know. I still have my doubts over Candreva. Although, I think it's the whole Conte impact of, he finds parts of the system that he wants. I don't want to. You've probably seen more on the De Paul sending off than I have, because I got 2 relatively poor angles that they showed on the extended highlights that I watched. It looked like an act of stupidity from him.
It's exactly what it was.
So I don't know. I wasn't sure if you were alluding to Candreva maybe made a little bit more of it than he should, but then doesn't every footballer who stays on their feet these days if they've been struck anywhere around above chest height?
It's one of those situations. Candreva gave him a little rub under the chin, and then De Paul slapped him. So obviously, in that situation, you are going to go down because you don't know if anyone's actually seen it, right? So if you go down, then they look at VAR, and then you know that they get someone sent off. Candreva's a genius.
Yeah, the VAR's, when you say you don't know if anybody's seen it, we're in you're in a huge stadium with probably more cameras than even in your little provincial stadia. So, you've got to be smarter, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, I was more saying that from Candreva's point of view. De Paul's an idiot because VAR exists, and it's existed in Italian football. This is now the 3rd season. You can't get away with something like that. You can't just slap someone in the face in the middle of a football pitch and not get sent off for it. It was amazing because he still then appealed it when he got sent off. He's kind of like, what? Are you serious? Do you not remember what you just did 2 minutes ago? I love that. It was pretty amazing. Vito, Milan Skriniar is settling into this back 3 very, very nicely. A lot of people were kind of skeptical as to whether or not he was able to, but he's proving everyone that doubted him wrong.
Well, he is a quality defender, and in that ill-fated season when Sampdoria had Vincenzo Montella as a coach, some did play with a back three, and it was Skriniar's first season in Serie A. It was probably a bit raw, made a few mistakes, but his current teammate at Inter, Andrea Ranocchia, was at Samp too, and Ranocchia was, needless to say, the one making the most mistakes in that back three. So Skriniar was still all right then. But now, the way Skriniar has progressed as a player in the last 3 years or so, and also with a coach like Antonio Conte who really knows how to set up a defense, I think he's going to get a lot more recognition now. And again, without sounding like we're preaching to the choir too much, I really do hope that non-Serie A fans hear more of him, because he is a fantastic player in his own right.
Yeah, well, they haven't had the biggest of tests just yet, have Inter. Kev, they've only conceded 1 goal. I'm going to push you for a prediction. How many goals will Inter concede in Serie A this season?
Well, let's say 30.
30 in 38 games?
Yeah, just slightly under, less than 1 a game.
Okay. I'm going to go 25.
I'm trying to think what the numbers were last year.
You can't just say something like that at the drop of a hat. But last season, Juventus conceded 30 goals, Napoli conceded 36, and Inter conceded 33.
Okay, so that supports my prediction. I'm happy. I'm happy.
Do you think Conte's only going to make them 3 goals better in defence?
Conte. No, I'm sticking with my prediction.
I'm going to say they're going to concede 25. So we'll put a little bit, but we'll put a beer on that. All right.
As long as you write it down, because my old mind won't remember what I said.
It's exactly what I'm saying, because I'll remember if I win and I won't if I don't. But
okay.
We'll leave it at that. At the other end, Romelu Lukaku didn't have his best day. He was a little bit just not on it, basically. Lautaro Martinez looked immediately brighter once he did come on. Obviously, neither of them scored. But Lukaku is going to have games like this, Vito, right? Especially while he's still settling in. There's no reason for people to be worrying.
Well, that's what I believe is the key. It's all about Lukaku trying to adapt to Italian football, the more tactical and technical nature of it. And even the best players that have played in Serie A, they did not start off well at all. So, whether it's Lukaku or any other player, you can't really single too many players out if they start off poorly in Serie A. So I think he is ideal for contest tactics, and I reckon over time he will improve. And even if it's not in the first half of the season, perhaps in the second half, he's got a better understanding of how Conte wants him to play, how his teammates move, and so forth. And maybe he might hit a run of form in the later part of the year, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, well, we did have Dovskivony at both of those games. I don't think I'm going to talk to him this week, so you're not missing anything just yet, you YouTube viewers. But the biggest game of the weekend was probably that at the Stadio Artemio Franchi, right, where Fiorentina and Juventus came head-to-head and they drew 0-0. And Fiorentina should have won, Kev.
Yeah, they were dominant. They had 3 times more goal attempts than Juventus, and I say it was just wastefulness on their part. I think that didn't secure them what would have been I was going to use the word memorable, but certainly an enjoyable win over their. Do we still call it bitter rivals?
From one side, yes, and we are speaking about the side where that is bitter, yeah. But yeah, any win over Juve is memorable for Fiorentina. It would have been memorable. Why do you hesitate to commit to that word?
Well, it's memorable. So you look back at it. If you've won a prize, a trophy or something at the end of the season, there's those victories that have secured you points. I don't think even if they'd won, it would do any more than allow them to finish mid-table this year. So it doesn't have that sort of significance. But
does that not give it more significance because they're not going to do anything this year? Juve are all conquered. They've got Cristiano.
No, I think you still kind of lose it in your memory as the years sort of go by, and if it hasn't actually impacted on a sort of a trophy or maybe a European finish, which I still don't think they'll get. But as I say, it was largely their own fault because they just missed so many chances. There was that Dalbert header in the first half. There was one towards the end that Castrovilli sort of just didn't make a connection at all, really, and just sliced it towards the corner flag.
Yeah, Dalbert was he was bad. He must have been so frustrating if you were a Fiorentina fan because he gave the ball away a few times. That header was horrid. But I'm just looking at this Fiorentina team, and they've got Martin Caceres, Dalbert. I don't know. It's not the most inspiring team, even though there's a lot of excitement around them there. Are we getting kind of blinded, Vito, by the off-field stuff and the fact that they've signed a big name in Ribery? And are Fiorentina still just that, as Vieri has kind of said, team who will be happy to finish 10th?
At this stage, it looks that way because I reckon Commisso, he's been one of those guys that he's talked a lot and they have brought in players, but the ones that are of any great quality, to be honest, the players that are past their prime. So Boateng is 32 and Ribery is 36. And you can't expect them to be like Fabio Quagliarella. So they're really missing players in that 25 to 28-year-old age bracket where in the peak of their powers and can really lift the team. So you either got guys that are probably too young, guys like Castrovilli, Dusan Vlahovic, and
Lirola as well.
Lirola, Sotil, and Chiesa, he's still 21. So it's a very youthful team, Dragowski in goal. So you've got guys that are either one or the other. There's no one that's right in the prime. Maybe Petzella, but he's 28. So I think for Fiorentina, they might take a bit more time to really improve. But I think Montella, he's got to get results now. Ultimately, they need wins. So for all the talk and all the, maybe not theatrics like Ferrero at some, but he's trying to grab a lot of attention, Commisso, but there's hardly any results coming through as yet.
On the other side, Kev, what happened to Juve? Because they weren't really there, were they?
No, they just didn't turn up. Whether that's the return of the amount of players they no doubt had on the international duty, they had no bite, no determination. Really, they just were kind of going through the motions most of the 90 minutes from what it looked like.
I have a couple of theories on this. Two theories combined. One was obviously getting 3 players forced off with injury isn't going to help, so they couldn't really stick to their game plan. But the second one, and it's something that has quite annoyed me this weekend, is the fact that the game was played at 3:00. Ridiculous. It's too hot. Players can't do anything. They can barely run. So you see, it's probably no surprise that Federico Chiesa caused a couple of the chances that Fiorentina had in the game because he's 21 years old. Cristiano Ronaldo and Gonzalo Higuain could barely move. It must have been upwards of 30 degrees at 3:00 in the afternoon. And Serie A do this thing where they don't play before 6:00 in the first couple of rounds of the season, but we're still having summer weather here. It's still very, very hot. And they
we are
decided
here
this
as
week
well.
it's okay. I couldn't wrap my head around it because they're doing the water breaks, which means every game is 10 minutes longer as well. And I don't know, I got quite annoyed about this weekend. And then someone in the press box said it to me today as well. And we had a nice big argument with each other making the same point. It was beautiful. But yeah, the game shouldn't be played at 3:00. So maybe next season they should look into that because it's mad. We saw in the Lazio game today as well. I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of contributed to Lazio just losing the run of themselves in the second half because they were wrecked. It was 32 degrees in Ferrara where it's humid and there's not a breeze in sight. It's not good.
Yeah, but that is, from memory, this is traditionally when the 3 p.m. games and things start getting played again, aren't they?
Yes, it is. But the climate is
without
very
going into
different.
global warming, maybe it's
But you can't not go into it because
no, yeah,
climate
but
is
yeah, so they
different
need
now.
to look at trends as to when it's staying hotter later in the year now and things, and maybe move that whatever the date is that they, even if it's like the international break, and then they say when we come back from that, we go back to playing all those games, because obviously a driver in this as well is the TV money.
Yeah.
Because Serie A want to be able to spread these games out, because, well, it's difficult for us to cover the games as much as anything else when, say, the first week of the season when they're all starting at 7:45 in the evening, or just over a couple of days is difficult. So.
Yeah, I'd agree, but it's one of those cases where if the players physically can't play, don't play it. And especially nowadays, right? Because they all spend their summers traveling all around the world, and then they come back for the first couple of weeks of the season, and the temperature doesn't actually allow them to play properly. I don't know. I just don't like it. The players should be made a little bit more important, and I think it should probably be the 1st of October from next year. Or
you do what many other leagues do, which is just put two teams at their early fixture that nobody cares about. Put SPAL Sassuolo, or Lecce Verona, and nobody actually realizes, because they think it's going to be a dull 0-0 draw.
No, it's true, because yesterday you had the biggest game of the round. Today we had a Champions League team playing at 12:30, and then a Champions League contender playing at 3:00, and it just, I don't know. I'm not going to go into it too much. We already have done too much on it, to be fair. But I did speak to our guy, Vieri Capretta, who was at the Artemio Franchi for this. So if you're only watching on YouTube, go and download the audio, and you can hear me talk to Vieri, and he'll tell you all about everything, including Castrovilli, who was amazing. It's one of those days, Kev. All right, second place team from last season, Napoli. They beat Sampdoria 2-0. And strangely, Vito, Samp will probably be relatively pleased that it was only 2-0.
Yeah, I think at this stage, especially after the shambolic start we've had in the first two rounds, 2-0 against Napoli is not so bad. Not only that, our record against the Napolitani in Naples is not particularly good at all. So it was really a case of limitation damage. That being said, I thought there were a few chances where Samp should have scored. So early in the first half, Alex Ferrari had a chance from a corner. Then Emiliano Rigoni was in a one-on-one situation where he shot straight at Alex Marit. Perhaps he probably could have dribbled around him or chipped him.
He should have buried that.
Yeah, very wasteful. And Quagliarella had two efforts, probably a bit tricky for the normal player, but you'd think with Quagliarella's mercurial talents, he would have been able to convert those chances. So,
speaking of Quags, Kev, did you see the pass that he played for that Rigoni chance? Oh my God!
To be honest, I hadn't realised it was him that made the pass. I was more furious about how wasteful Rigoni was with the chance. I'm glad Vito said he should have scored. I thought Vito with his Samp hat on was going to excuse him for it being a wonderful save, but he really should have done so much better.
He should have. He's stolen an assist off Quags there for missing that, because it was put on a plate for him.
Yeah, if it was Quags that provided it.
What do you mean if? I've just told you it was.
Well, okay. As it was Quags, he sliced it straight between those players through for Rigoni. Yes, it was a wonderful pass. I just hadn't realised it was him.
You had to say the word sliced, didn't you? You can't give him the credit to say it was an outside of the pass. Sliced.
Okay, well, I meant more the way he cut through the defence, as in sliced, rather than... was it as good as Ilicic's outside of the pass for Slovenia?
Can we talk about that? That was
I don't know.
Filth. That is
I
illegal.
retweeted it a couple of times.
You shouldn't be allowed to do things like that. If anyone's listening who hasn't seen that Josip Ilicic pass from the international break, where have you been? And stop listening to this podcast right now and go find it.
I might have only seen it because it was against Poland.
Huh?
I might have only seen it because it was against Poland.
Okay. Obviously, I've got my reasons for seeing it. But, Kev, go on. How good of a pass was that Ilicic one?
Oh, it was unbelievable. It really was, because it's not just the technique, it's the distance at which he plays it. It's the distance that the player's away from him that he sees that run. And I suppose you give a little bit of credit to the striker for making the run in the first place. But I think you make that run because you know he's got the quality to deliver it. I was reading something. I was reading some Champions League promo stuff in a publication. I won't name publications here. And they were just saying about how he's found his...
If you like them, you can do it.
It's World Soccer.
Okay.
But, you know, he was highlighted as a sort of breakout star after finally finding some consistency that he's, you know, at Atalanta, which he infuriated fans of both Palermo and Fiorentina by having that ability and not really always putting it into practice. But, yeah, the longer we have him in Serie A, the better.
I agree. Anyway, back to this game. Josip Ilicic can squeeze in anywhere he wants. But back to this game. I was surprised by Elmas for Napoli. He was quite good, and when he signed, people were kind of wondering why they had signed him. But he's doing okay in these early fixtures, Vito.
I think that he probably offers a bit more on the ball than someone like Allen, who provides great energy and directness, but Elmas, despite his age, he looks a bit more composed on the ball. And, you know, he's one of those players that can be the ball winner and the ball distributor in central midfield. So I reckon, you know, with more time, he can add some extra fluidity to Napoli's play. And also when they're defending, he'll be one of those guys that can win the ball back because you have Fabian Ruiz and Piotr Zielinski in that midfield. So throughout that season, they're going to be offering a lot more offensively than Elmas. So I think he'll fit in very nicely in Ancelotti's team.
Yeah, you would expect him to, right? I'm just watching a video clip of him from the weekend just now, making an absolute mockery of Jason Murillo. I know he's not the most difficult player to make a mockery of, but yeah, it's a beautiful thing to watch. I'm going to retweet it, so if you want to see it, just go on Twitter now and you'll have a look at it. Beautiful play. But, Kev, I'm going to put you on the spot with a question. What is Napoli's biggest strength?
There's
a correct answer here.
Well, Carlo Ancelotti.
Wrong.
But no, probably I was going to say their attack, but actually their defence looks so solid this year.
Well, it didn't against Juve, did it?
Well, no, yeah, sorry, I'm thinking on paper, I suppose.
Yeah.
I was thinking about probably their biggest strength is Koulibaly, and then thinking that Manolas has also joined them this year. But they've got so much going forward that you kind of, you know, that Juve game could easily have gone the other way.
Yeah.
But then that's not a way that you know, look at Conte's impact at Inter. That is not how you go about trying to win a league title. Plenty of teams have, and unfortunately, the will score more than you isn't the attitude to have. But they are an embarrassment of the riches in attack.
Yeah. What specifically about their attack is it, though, Kev? It's that they're all best mates. Did you see Dries Mertens when he got his second goal? That was then not given, and then it was given again, and he did a second celebration.
I saw him hugging Llorente. This may have been missed on my highlights, but I saw him hugging Llorente. First, he sat down with a ball in his shirt and did a little driving.
He did,
which I didn't understand the context to. Maybe you can.
No, I don't know, but I loved it. It was cute. But then, yeah, he did that. But then he got the goal and he celebrated, and then it was up in the air, and then it was given again, and Llorente came over and gave him a little hug, and Callejon ran over celebrating as if it was a new goal. And then Mertens ran over to the dugout and gave Insigne and Kevin Malqui little cuddles. It was nice. They're all best friends.
I think a few of the players have been there together for quite a while now, though, haven't they? And I also think some of that comes from when you're winning. You know, they've been the second best team in Italy for a while now. They've not really had any periods of difficulty that, you know, where you would probably see them on the pitch, you know, arguing with each other, whatever it is, over misplaced passes and things. Because last year there weren't really any threat to them not finishing in second place, so they were under very little pressure. so they can all be jovial, in a good mood, and enjoying their daily work.
They can.
The voice of pessimism there from me.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to get you to have a little smile on your face, Kev, but you're not.
Yeah.
You're not allowing me to. Vito.
I was going to say, work call this my objective perspective, and I am supposed to embrace it. But it isn't negativity. That's what my professional development review told me.
Well, I'll tell you, that's a crock of nonsense.
Okay.
That's what that is. Vito, you only conceded two goals this week, which is nice. Played with a back three, no Omar Colley, so you just had one liability in the back three in Murillo. Is this the way forward?
I think the back three is the way forward, especially with Alex Ferrari. But that must be said, there is another liability there that's not Murillo or Colley. It's a guy called Vasco Regini. Now, unless you are a diehard supporter of Italian football, especially Serie A, you might not know much about who he is. But he's been on the books for several years now. He's been very indecisive about what is his preferred position. Left back, left wing back, centre back. But he can't really do all those things well. And probably the only thing I've really been impressed with him with was back in the 2013-2014 season. He made this great assist for Eder in a victory against Kiev, where he ran right along the left wing. Other than that, he's another defensive liability. And I wonder, does he have any dirty photos of the Sump hierarchy or something? I don't know. Apparently, he's a really nice guy. Some of the Sump fans, they take photos with him. When they do the Easter visits to the Gaslini Hospital, he's the one that's talking to the kids and all that. So I'm sure he's a nice guy. But on the football field, you got to be able to play properly. So all the personality contests count for naught. You got to contribute on the pitch effectively and help your team get the results. And I think Regini is one of those really error-prone players. So it would have been good if he got off the Sump books. And I really hope that Sump do get bought out soon. So in January, we can actually buy decent defenders. I'm not expected to be like Liverpool, who bought Virgil van Dijk and spent £75 million. Mind you, that turned out to be a fantastic investment. But at least get us someone that's half decent, not some tree trunks. That'd be nice.
Get on to Martin Skirtle.
Pardon? No, I'd rather have Trent Sainsbury.
Can't play in a free.
Well, Vasco Regini has been on Sam's books for 10 years now. Obviously, he's left on loan and he went to Empoli and he came back, but 10 years. He was at SPAL for the second half of last season as well. And he was. Well, he didn't play too much, and when he did play, he wasn't very impressive. But let's leave that game there as well, shall we? I'll let you guys choose where you want to go next. Vito, which match shall we do?
Well, let's see. Well, we can talk about your team. Otherwise, we could briefly touch upon... there was Roma Sassuolo, 6 goals.
Okay, I'm a professional. I don't have a team. So let's go to Rome, where we had Alistair McKenzie at the game. I'm not speaking to him. Not that we're fighting. I'm just not speaking to him for this week's podcast. But there were 6 goals. 4 of them came in the first half hour, Kev. And Henrik Mkhitaryan scored in his debut. Onwards and upwards. It's a great sign.
Yeah, it should be, you'd hope, because they were quite bad last year. And, the game was effectively over in 30 minutes. I think there's an element of the clinicalness of Mkhitaryan's finish. Kluivert, when he ran through and finished that. Those are the sort of chances they were missing at times last year. I think it's weird when it all comes together in that opening half an hour and then you're allowed to sit back. I'm not saying that's just why Sassuolo pulled a couple of goals back, but there's positive signs from them if they can turn 4-0s or early leads into sort of solid performances and not concede, I think.
Sassuolo, I think, will be involved in a lot of games like this season. Not that they'll get pumped 4-2 all the time or be 4-0 down, but they're going to be quite entertaining. Maybe not for their fans or for fans of teams playing them, but for me going along every couple of weeks, it might not be the worst place to go because there will be goals. You look at that team, there's not a lot of solidity going on at the back. I mean, Marlon, Vlad Kirikesh and Ferrari as a back three. I know Alfred Duncan provides them with a lot of protection in front, but can't do it all by himself. But yeah, Roma got a win you'd expect them to get. Not really too much else to say. Justin Kluivert, though, I'm happy for him because I think he's still got a lot of potential that hasn't quite been tapped into yet at Roma. He showed it in glimpses last year, Vito, but he never quite found a consistency underneath Francesco.
No, he looked very raw, and I think even when Cengiz Under got injured, he still wasn't getting looked at. There was that whole idea of converting Nicolo Zaniolo into a false right winger, and that did not work out very well. Zaniolo has played his best football when he's used as a trequartista. The goal that he scored against Sassuolo this evening was an excellent strike, and again, hopefully this is a catalyst for him to kick on and do well at Roma, because he too is another player that's been taking a lot of time to adapt to the Italian way of playing.
Yeah, let's hope so. But I was at the Stadio Palomazza in Ferrara today for SPAL's win over Lazio, and talk about a game of two halves. This was ridiculous. Lazio were the only team on the pitch in the first half, and then Lazio decided not to come back out for the second half, and it was just SPAL running at poor Thomas Strakosha's goal, and they completed a comeback. They won 2-1. Kevin, Lazio need to not do this if they want to qualify for the Champions League. We've been optimistic about them this season, but then they come and do what they're generally capable of doing, which is just offering these kind of inexplicable poor performances, and these types of things are the reason they don't qualify for the Champions League perhaps as much as they should.
Yeah, and it was interesting that you say about they sort of didn't turn up the second half. That the highlights kind of showed that they had a few of the chances in the first half. It didn't show that they were completely dominant. But then this is where you make the comparison to Roma that effectively took all of their chances they had in the first half hour, and sort of Caicedo looked a little bit wasteful in front of goal. And if you do that, you leave yourself open to taking not consciously taking your foot off the gas or allowing the other side to come into it. And maybe it's early enough in the season that they will learn from this mistake, hopefully, and will provide that extra challenge to the Champions League places.
You would hope so, because they certainly have the quality. I mean, Sergej Milinkovic-Savic and Joaquin Correa came off the bench for them today, so they do have that depth that they need to kind of challenge. But who knows?
Is that an issue?
Having
depth? Is that an issue that you have Correa and Milinkovic-Savic on the bench, and then the rest of the team almost think, well, Inzaghi clearly thinks that we can beat these without two of our stronger players, and then so I know you people have got to be managed for the time, whether they're coming back from international duty or if they're carrying muscle fatigue, small knocks. But I do think it does send a little bit of a message to the team that we're playing weak opposition.
It didn't strike me as a move where Inzaghi was saying, "Oh, this is going to be easy," because you look at the midfield; they had Lulic, Alberto, Lucas Leiva, Parolo, and Lazzari, which is strong, and that is a midfield five that will play a lot of times for them this season. We've seen Milinkovic-Savic not always start. Same with Correa, right? These are two players that don't always get a game for varying reasons, even though they're probably two of the best players at the club. But I don't know. They should have been 3-0 up by half-time. Caicedo was very close when he hit the post. Immobile could have scored another one, and then when he didn't, he teed up Caicedo and missed when he probably shouldn't have. On another day, it was 3-0 at half-time and done. But they've got to take those chances. They really, really do. Like, again, the goal came from a penalty, which still counts. But yeah, it's one of those. SPAL. Let's have a little chat about SPAL, because I got a bit excited today. I was messaging you guys. I was messaging Dov about big Andrea Petagna. Name an Italian striker who's been better over the last 12 months than him.
So from Fabio Quagliarella.
Yeah, because Kev hates him.
Oh, well, probably, not really much else.
You can't, because there hasn't been one, Vito. There hasn't.
Belotti, possibly. But I
Possibly.
suppose Belotti were expecting a lot more.
Yes. But the fact that we're even having a conversation about this, Andrea Petagna should be playing for Italy.
Not Kevin
He's
Lasagna.
fantastic. Yeah, exactly. I'd even go as far as to say not Ciro Immobile, given his performances when he plays for Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Petagna's brilliant. I always praised him when he was at Atalanta as well, but I kind of had to stop short because he wasn't scoring goals, and he is a striker. But he always did everything else. Now he's doing everything else, and he's also scoring goals. He scored 16 in Serie A last season. He's already got 2 this year. He could be a plan B for Italy. He could be a plan A. He can move. He's not the quickest, but he moves more than he gets credit for. He's strong. He can be a little bit lazy sometimes, but when he fancies it, he's very, very hard to stop. Kev, I know he was linked with like Lazio in the summer transfer window. Would you be surprised or opposed to seeing him play for Italy in the run up to the European Championship?
No, I think what you were sort of saying there earlier was the whole now the numbers look a lot better. I think as a striker, if your numbers aren't great, which they weren't at times for Atalanta, I had a look earlier as you were alluding to us to discussing the young man. Now he's got those numbers, you can have an off game, or even just not look as though you're involved in the game, and your numbers still show that you should be giving your chances. You should still be starting. So yeah, I don't see any reason why Italy shouldn't take a look at him. He's had 2 caps. I think maybe only a solitary cap, but he's 24 now. He's coming into a crucial part of his career, and that's probably why. Because I looked at it, it was 9 goals in 63 appearances for Atalanta, but you tell me or know better than I would how many of those games, if you like, were full 90 minutes. I imagine that he wasn't starting that young.
Most of them would have been full 90 minutes, but his role wasn't really to score goals. It was to kind of bully everyone else, so then other players could arrive and score goals. But one thing that's really, really apparent with him now is he's so confident. Before, with Atalanta, when he had a chance, you never really expected him to score. 1, because you hadn't seen him score regularly enough to believe that he could. And 2, because he never looked like he backed himself. His job was purely to just go out there and be a handful and make space for the likes of Gomez, for Cristante, and even going back as far as Andrea Conti and Leonardo Spinazzola getting up on the wings. But now he's still able to do that bullying job, but he's also been given the responsibility of scoring the goals. You look at that SPAL team, their midfield, Marco D'Alessandro, Murgia, Miseroli, Kurtic, and Rezza. They're not going to score you goals. Kurtic will get you 5 a season, but Federico Di Francesco, he's not really a goal-scoring attacking player either. He's more of a creator. Petagna has to score, and he's doing it. He's really, really, really impressing me at SPAL. And
I think his body, how he moves on the football pitch, his build, it all looks very workmanlike. Where you take somebody like Domenico Berardi at Sassuolo, who looks more elegant, if you like, as a footballer, and scores goals like he scored today. And I think that's where Petagna always seems like a bit of an afterthought for the national side.
Yeah, if I know it's not what you're saying, but if you were to offer me Petagna or Berardi in any team in Serie A or for Italy, I wouldn't consider it. It will be Petagna any day of the week. Berardi will let you down. Petagna, even if he doesn't quite hit the heights you expect of him, he'll do everything he can. And he's a bit of a nuisance. He's good, and he can kill players as well. But I don't know, Petagna's good. I really, really want him to get a run out in October, November, because if Italy qualify for next summer, he's got to be there. If he gets another 15 goals this season, he's got to be on that team. And if he's not, it's ridiculous. But that'll do from that game. Let's talk about the most entertaining team in Serie A. They were at it again. Atalanta. My God. Big Duvan. They won it in the 96th minute through a strike from Duvan Zapata. And it wasn't a bad hit.
No, it was not at all. Yeah, well, yeah, it was well taken chance, and also for such a big guy, he moves really well. So with his physique, he's not like a tree trunk or an elephant. He's a smooth mover, and he's not an easy guy to push over too. And this is what Atalanta need from him because he's been a fantastic scorer since arriving in Bergamo, and with the Champions League campaign coming up. I think he can be a real difference maker for Ladea in those crucial European fixtures.
There's something so very satisfying about seeing both Duvan Zapata and Luis Muriel score in the same game. Kev, I'm sure this is something you will appreciate, seeing more than one attacking player score in the same match and then both look quite happy when the other scores.
Oh well, yeah. I suppose there's a friendly rivalry, isn't there, in trying to get to top scorer, be it in the league or be it in the club. There was something about that Zapata strike that any goal that hits the underside of the bar and then goes back up and hits the net again just makes it look that little bit extra special. But it was kind of they deserved the win, because it was. I don't know your thoughts on the penalty, but
it wasn't a penalty.
It was a soft decision for the penalty, and the way it always concerns me when a team go and celebrate almost as if it was that was the last kick of the game, because you just think there's not been an obvious mistake for the Zapata goal, but you just always feel, don't do this, turn around, run to the other end and just hold out for your point now. But there you go.
But to be fair, they did score in the 92nd minute themselves, Genoa. So you do think, all right, that's that then. But that Zapata goal is ridiculous.
Yeah, but maybe you shouldn't. Whatever. How many minutes for you've had a VAR controversy before your penalty. Well, controversy, but you had some time that elapsed because they were looking at the decision. So then you're not entirely sure how many minutes, if any, in Italy are going to be added on beyond the injury time. So maybe they should have been a little bit more focused. But I'd say that wasn't the problem for the goal. But yeah, my objective perspective again.
Oh, I'm watching it. Can we try and describe it? So Martin Darun will get credited with the least deserving assist of all time for this as well, because Darun plays it to him. He's about 25 yards out, and he just turns and thinks, "All right, I'm having this," and he spanks it in off the bottom of the crossbar.
He seems to hit it with very little backlift as well.
Yeah, that's what really caught me by it as well.
It looks very strange.
It doesn't look like he's about to hit it when he does. And you watch it knowing that you're about to watch a good goal, so you're thinking, all right, he's going to do something special here. But it's phenomenal, the power he got on that. He's great. He really is coming into himself, and it will be interesting to see if he can replicate the form he hit last season, because if he does, and Luis Muriel even gets 10, 15 goals in Serie A this season, which he's well on track to do, Atalanta could well be the entertainers again this year. And yeah, they're up in Champions League action very, very soon, which is going to be interesting. If you don't really watch Serie A that much, watch them in Europe. You'll have fun. Whether they win or lose, they'll entertain you. The other games, speaking of entertainment, actually, Brescia, this was nice. Brescia threw away a 3-1 lead at home to Bologna and lost 4-3. It was Bologna's first game without Sinisa Mihajlovic on the bench, Vito, but they got the result, and it was good to see. They showed real fight for him.
Well, I think that's what we should be expecting from Bologna this season. So even if they are trailing games and so forth, they will have that fight. And, they were well taking goals. Most of them came through set pieces, and a couple of them anyway. But, yeah, it was good. Palacio, Orsolini, they were crucial. Sansone provided the cross for Barney for the first goal. So, yeah, offensively, I think Bologna are a very good side. They're probably the most attack-minded Mihajlovic side I've probably seen, and I'm sure I've said that already on the pod. And I think it's this kind of fight that's needed, not just because of what he's going through off the field, but I think Bologna themselves they need to play in this kind of way and have this mentality, because the way the game is these days, you can have a big lead, but there's still a chance that the opposition can squander it because of either fatigue or complacency. One more thing I will add, though, is probably the sending off the Yellow de Senna did put things in Bologna's favour. It did change the momentum, but I still believe the Felsine deserve credit for coming back like they did. And I think it's also an example of the mentality change that Mihajlovic has brought since he replaced Filippo Inzaghi as coach.
Kev, what do you make of this?
Well, the game, I thought the defense, all the goals, for almost all 7 goals, some of the defending was terrible. Or some of that was just out of luck rather than judgment. The first one that allowed Bologna to pull a goal back, I don't know what the goalkeeper was doing. He comes out for something that he probably saves if he stays on his line, because he's never going to reach the cross. All the players are congregated just beyond the penalty spot, and then he's sort of diving to stretch to get there. But yeah, I was very, very impressed when I saw Bologna live towards the back end of last season, and there's something that Mihajlovic does instill in his sides, the sort of fighting spirit. And there's I know we're 3 games into the season, but they're second at the moment, just ahead of Juve, same points. I can see them having a real good go at Europe this year if they keep those performances up. If you look at the improvement that Mihajlovic made to the team last season, I think they can, because they will experience a dip at some point in the season this year. But I fully expect that to only be for a short time, maybe a difficult run of games where they're facing strong opposition. But yeah, I think they're going to do really well.
Well, after Mihajlovic took over last season, them and Atalanta were the 2 best teams in Serie A between then and the end of the season. So this isn't just us judging them on 3 games this year. It's an extension of what we've seen since, what was it, January, February when Mihajlovic went in there?
February at the most.
Because before that, this time last year, Bologna were the worst team I've ever seen. I remember criticizing them on the podcast every week, and I wasn't exaggerating. They were turgid. They had nothing going forward. They were relying on Federico Santander, and it was awful to watch. And now they're actually quite entertaining. Rodrigo Palacio scored because he wasn't playing at the Dallara, because I'm pretty sure he still hasn't scored there as a Bologna player, but the fans love him. I was speaking to Alessio about this today, actually, and he was like, "Oh, of course, Palacio scores away from home." But did you see the pass he played for Riccardo Orsolini's goal? It was like the typical pass that Insigne plays to Cagliari for Napoli every week. It was really, really good. Alessio, actually, if you want to go and get him on Twitter, you'll see this. Alessio De Giuseppe, Bologna fans deserve a bit of credit. They always deserve credit because they're a fantastic support. But when they got back to Brescia this evening, not all of them, I should say, it was probably about 50, went to the hospital where Mihajlovic is and basically stood outside clapping and singing until he popped his head out the window. And then they all got very, very happy and were singing his name, which I thought was quite moving, quite a nice touch. And obviously we continue to wish him all the best with his recovery. But as you were saying about Bologna, they will experience a dip this season, and all of anything they do is going to be so dependent on his health, basically, between now and May.
Yeah, and it can go one or 2 ways. I think if he's struggling, but in a time of adversity, I think you really do often take a sort of a long, hard look at yourself. But then there's one person will cope with that by putting in extra effort. The other one will start looking at their own mortality and maybe, if they're naturally inclined to worry, may struggle to sort of dig those performances out. I think if you've got the majority doing the former and dragging the rest through, I think they'll be fine. And I think it will just turn into an extension of Mihajlovic's sort of fighting ability that will get them through those periods.
Let's hope so. Cagliari got a big win at Parma. I wasn't there for this, but Bruno Alves smacked the post, and then it all went wrong for Parma. Luca Capitelli scored twice, believe it or not, and Antonino Barilla scored for Parma before there was a bit of a penalty drama. Giovanni Simeone scored for Cagliari as well, which was a well-taken goal. To be fair, he ran at Bruno Alves, decided probably best to not try and take it past this guy, so he just took a shot from the edge of the box and went in the bottom corner. It's good. Yeah, are we going to talk about VAR? Can we not? Because just give it a few weeks and it'll be okay again. Because it's been a bit ropey at the start of each of the 3 seasons.
Yeah. Well, they didn't even show. I'm watching the game back now, but I'm doing this. But they didn't even show the VAR on the highlights. They weren't that concerned with it. So why should we?
Yeah, well, people were kind of losing their heads on Twitter about this, but I don't really see why. There was a header that bounced off a Cagliari defender's hand, and the referee gave a penalty, and then it was overturned. Personally, I don't think it was a penalty because it was very, very close when.
It was Ragnar Klavan.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
I think it hit his shoulder almost near his collarbone, and I wasn't even convinced that it hit his arm afterwards. But yeah, it was very, very difficult. It would have been very, very harsh.
Yeah, I'm not having that. It's not a penalty. And even if it was a penalty, you can't know definitively enough to say that it was. So we'll leave it there. Parma will be okay, you'd hope. But there's one more game. Oh no, it's tomorrow night, 3-0 Lecce. Right, that'll do. Anything else? Is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
When are you coming to Italy, Kev?
I am now in Italy the 22nd of November.
That's your next trip?
Yes, because I'm in Naples Tuesday for the Champions League. Although I will be in the away section.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yes, I can't wait. I've got to get on a bus apparently at 6 p.m. for a 9 p.m. game.
That's late enough. I thought you'd be on the bus at about 3 p.m. to be honest.
Well, that's when they're starting the buses. Our final bus is 6 p.m. But we were there last year. It was fine. The people of Naples were more than hospitable.
Kev, they're amazing. The Napolitani are amazing.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's just around the stadium that they're more concerned about the safety, but yeah.
Yeah, possibly. Vito, when are you here?
2 more weeks.
That's quite a while away. I thought it was this weekend for some reason.
No, I'll be in Germany this weekend.
You're here for Samp Inter, right? That weekend?
Yes.
Okay,
that
the
weekend.
28th. All right, perfect. Fine.
Yeah.
That's good. I'll get my bearings together before then. So
we need Rodrigo de Paul in Vito's room because he looks like he's needed a slap in the face because his jet lag has been getting the better of him, I think, as we've been going along.
Yeah, he looks tired.
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks for making me not the tiredest person on the podcast this week, Vito.
That's all right, Connor. That's what happens when you travel from one side of the world to the other.
Yeah.
And come drinking with me.
If only I had the stamina to last longer last night.
You couldn't last longer than the old man?
No.
Oh my God. On that note, we'll stop recording so that people don't have to listen to this. We'll continue this off air. Thanks for listening, everybody. Go over to ForzaItalianFootball.com for all of your Serie A coverage, features. I've written about Andrea Petagna and the Serie A kickoff times and not really knowing what SPAL's identity is actually supposed to be in my feature from Ferrara. So head over, read that. Kev is going to be writing about Bologna.
I am.
He is. Dov has written about Stefano Sensi and probably something else. So we've got loads up there. Go and read it all. We'll have more to come as well, especially with the Champions League coming back. Yeah, it's going to be fun. We'll speak to you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Ciao.